Stop. Before you do anything else today, I need you to hear this one number. 78%. That is the percentage of working adults who are living paycheck to paycheck right now, in the most technologically advanced era in human history. People with degrees, people with decent jobs, people who are smart, capable, and working hard every single day. And they are still not getting ahead. So what's actually going on? Is the system broken? Is the advice outdated? Or is something else happening? Something nobody on your feed is talking about? Here's what I'm going to tell you in this video. The exact financial blueprint that the top 3% of wealth builders are quietly executing right now in 2026. Not the recycled advice you've already heard. Not the theory. The actual sequence. The actual order of operations. The real psychology behind why most people stay stuck and the specific moves that separate the ones who don't. By the time this video ends, you're going to understand money in a completely different way. And if you implement even 2 or 3 things I lay out today, your financial trajectory will look completely different 12 months from now. Stay with me, because I save the most important thing for the very end. And trust me, you have not heard this one before. Let's start with the landscape. Before we get into this video about how to make money online, make sure you check out the link in the description for one of my best recommendations for making money online. Make sure to check out that link. And now, let's get straight into the video. Because understanding your environment is step 1 of any serious wealth strategy. The financial world you grew up learning about, the one your parents navigated, the one your school briefly mentioned, that world no longer exists. Not even close. And if you're still operating on that map, you're driving with a GPS that hasn't updated in 20 years. Here's the current terrain. Global interest rates, after the aggressive hiking cycles of the previous years, are now in a critical transition zone. Inflation has cooled from its peak, but the purchasing power damage is already locked in. What cost you $1 3 years ago now costs you $1.30. And that's not a temporary blip. That's your new baseline. Meanwhile, the labor market is undergoing something historians will write about for centuries. Artificial intelligence is not coming for jobs. It's already here, and it's already reshaping entire industries at a pace that has outrun policy, outrun regulation, and outrun most people's awareness. The World Economic Forum estimates that by 2027, 85 million jobs will be displaced by automation. But here's what they bury in the footnotes. The same shift will create 97 million new roles, mostly for people who understand how to work alongside these tools, not against them. The creator economy has crossed $1 trillion. Real-world asset tokenization is emerging as the next frontier of investment access. Remote work has permanently decoupled geography from income, meaning your earning potential is no longer limited by the city you live in. And perhaps most importantly, over 28% of Americans now report having at least one passive income stream, up from just 16% 5 years ago. That number is not a coincidence. It is the beginning of a massive behavioral shift, and the people who move now are the ones who will be on the right side of it in 5 years. So the question is not, should I change how I think about money? The question is, how fast can I adapt? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the actual framework. I want to start with something most finance channels skip entirely. And it's the reason most people consume financial content for years and never actually change their results. It's your operating system, not the apps on your phone, not your investment platform. I mean the invisible set of beliefs, defaults, and behaviors around money that run the background of every financial decision you make. If you don't address this layer first, every strategy one give you will only work for a few weeks before the old programming reasserts itself. Here's the brutal truth. Most people have a poverty-adjacent relationship with money, even people with high incomes. They spend reactively. They save defensively. They avoid looking at their actual numbers because the numbers produce anxiety. And anxiety produces avoidance. And avoidance produces more anxiety. It's a feedback loop that keeps the financial situation exactly where it is. Breaking that loop is not about discipline. It's about design. So what does a well-designed financial operating system look like in 2026? Step 1. Know your actual numbers. Not a rough estimate. Not a vague feeling. I mean a real, clear, honest picture of your monthly income, your fixed expenses, your variable spending, your total debt, and your total assets. Most people have never sat down and written all of this out in one place. Do it this week. It will feel uncomfortable. Do it anyway. Step 2. Build your emergency foundation before you do anything else. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account. not a standard bank account earning 0 point nothing. As of 2026, high-yield savings accounts are offering rates that meaningfully outpace inflation. Your emergency fund should be working for you, not sitting idle. This is non-negotiable. No investment strategy in the world protects you if a single unexpected expense collapses your entire plan. Step 3. Eliminate high-cost debt aggressively. Any debt above 8 or 9% interest is a guaranteed negative return on your life. Credit cards at 20+% are a wealth extraction machine operating silently in your name. The fastest guaranteed return you can generate is eliminating those balances. Avalanche method, highest interest first. Then redirect every dollar you were using for those payments straight into your investment system. The math here is indisputable. Step 4. Automate everything you want to happen. Your savings contribution should auto-transfer the day your paycheck arrives. Your investment contribution should auto-execute. The research on behavioral finance is overwhelming on this point. When you have to manually decide to save or invest every single month, decision fatigue, emotional state, and competing priorities will eventually interrupt the process. Remove the human from the equation. Automation is the single most powerful tool available to ordinary investors, and it costs you nothing to set up. That's your foundation. Without it, everything else I'm about to tell you is a house built on sand. With it, you have something to build on. Now here's where it gets interesting, because once the foundation is in place, the next question is, where does money actually go to multiply in this economy? And the answer in 2026 might surprise you. Let me give you a framework. I call it the investment stack. And the reason I use the word stack is intentional. It's a sequence, not a simultaneous activation of everything at once. Most people try to do everything at the same time and end up half committed to 10 strategies instead of fully committed to the right 2 or 3. Here's how the stack works, and more importantly, here's why it works in this specific order. Level 1. Tax advantage accounts first, always. If your employer offers any form of matched retirement contribution, superannuation in Australia, for a 1K in the US, employer pension contributions in the UK, and you are not maximizing that match, you're leaving free money on the table every single pay cycle. This is the highest guaranteed return available to you in the entire financial system. A 100% match on your contribution is a 100% immediate return before a single investment gains anything. Fill this to the match. Beyond the match, maximize your tax advantage contribution limits. The tax deferral alone compounds into a massive advantage over decades. The difference between an investment growing in a tax-advantaged account versus a taxable account over 30 years is not marginal. It's generational. Level 2. Low-cost index funds as your foundation. The data on this is now so overwhelming it should not even be controversial. Over any 10-year or longer period, the vast majority of actively managed funds underperform simple, broad market index funds after fees. The S&P 500 has averaged approximately 10% annually over its history. Not every year, not in a straight line, but over time, consistently. The strategy is not exciting. It's not a conversation starter at dinner parties. It also works better than almost everything else available to the average investor. Boredom in investing is a feature, not a bug. Level 3. Real assets as inflation protection. Real estate is not dead. The narrative that housing is permanently unaffordable misses the larger point. Real assets that generate income are the traditional backbone of generational wealth for a reason. You don't have to buy a home to invest in real estate in 2026. Real estate investment trusts, known as REITs, give you fractional exposure to commercial, residential, and industrial property with liquidity that direct ownership doesn't provide. They pay dividends. They tend to track inflation over time. They belong in a diversified portfolio. If you are in a position to purchase property, the calculus in 2026 requires more sophistication than it did in 2019. Interest rate environment, local market dynamics, rental yield versus capital appreciation, and your own liquidity needs all factor in. But the principle stands. Real assets protect purchasing power in a way that cash savings categorically cannot. Level 4. Alternative and emerging assets selectively. I want to be clear here because the internet is full of noise on this topic. Cryptocurrency, tokenized real-world assets, private equity access platforms. These are real, they are growing, and they have a place in a sophisticated portfolio. But they are level 4, not level 1. They require higher risk tolerance, higher knowledge, and should only represent a portion of a portfolio that already has a solid foundation beneath it. The people who blow up their financial lives with speculative assets are almost always the ones who skipped levels 1 through 3 and went straight to the most exciting option. Discipline is the alpha. Sequence is the strategy. Now, let's talk about the thing that most financial advice completely neglects, the income side of the equation. Because here's the hard truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Let's take a quick break here, guys. There's one piece I deliberately left out of this video. It's the part that actually ties everything together into a real income stream. Without it, most people watch video after video and never move. I built it into a full system. Everything mapped out, step by step. It's linked in the description below. Go take a look. You cannot invest your way out of a broken income ceiling. Optimization has limits. Growth does not. The next section is where most people's wealth trajectory actually changes. Here's a question that most people never ask themselves, and the absence of this question costs them years. What is the ceiling on my current income source? If you are an employee in a traditional corporate structure, your ceiling is roughly determined by your job title, your industry, your geography, and the budget of the organization you work for. You can optimize within that ceiling through performance, negotiation, and promotion. But the ceiling itself is someone else's decision about your worth, not your own. This is not an argument against employment. Employment has genuine advantages, stability, benefits, structure, community. But it is a hard argument for not letting employment be your only income source. Because one income source is not a financial plan. It's a single point of failure. In 2026, building a second income stream is no longer optional for anyone serious about financial independence. Here's what actually works, broken into what I call high leverage income versus low leverage income. Low leverage income trades time for money in a 1-to-1 ratio. A second job, freelancing at an hourly rate, driving for a gig platform. These are not wrong. They're often a necessary starting point. But they have a hard ceiling, your hours. You cannot scale time. High leverage income breaks the time-to-money ratio. You create something once, and it generates revenue repeatedly. You build a system that operates without your constant presence. You acquire an asset that pays you while you sleep. This is the distinction that separates people who stay busy from people who actually build wealth. Let me give you the specific high-leverage income categories that are performing in 2026. Category 1, high-income skills. The market in 2026 places a significant premium on a small number of skills that businesses desperately need and can't easily automate. AI workflow design and automation. The ability to build systems using tools like Make.com and 8N, Zapier, and AI APIs is currently one of the highest demand, lowest supply skill sets available. Businesses are willing to pay thousands of dollars per project to people who can automate their processes. And the barrier to entry is lower than it's ever been because the tools themselves have become dramatically more accessible. If you can learn this skill over the next 90 days, you can charge $2,000 to $10,000 per automation build. That's not a salary. That's a project. Digital marketing, particularly performance-focused paid, advertising, and conversion-focused content, remains a high-value skill. Sales and persuasion, whether in person or online. Data analysis and interpretation. These are skills with real, measurable output, and the market compensates accordingly. Category 2, digital assets and content systems. Over 28% of Americans now have at least one passive income stream. The fastest growing category within that group is digital content. YouTube channels, newsletters, digital product businesses, and education platforms. These aren't get-rich-quick schemes. They're businesses. They require real work up front and consistent execution over time. But once they build traction, they operate with extraordinary leverage. A YouTube video you produce once can generate ad revenue, sponsorship value, and affiliate income for years. An online course you create once can sell indefinitely. A newsletter with 10,000 subscribers has an asset value that far exceeds the revenue it generates today. The creator economy has surpassed $1 trillion. This is not a niche hobby market. It is a legitimate economic ecosystem that is growing faster than most traditional industries. Category 3, AI-leveraged income systems. This is the 2026 frontier that most people are either ignoring or misunderstanding. AI doesn't replace the need to provide value. It dramatically reduces the cost and time required to deliver that value. A solo operator using AI tools effectively can now produce at the scale and quality that previously required a small team. Content, code, design, research, client communication, business operations. AI either fully automates or significantly compresses the time required for all of these. The income opportunity is not in prompting AI. The income opportunity is in being someone who can take AI output and turn it into something real that solves a real problem for a real client or customer. Semi-passive income, where you do significant upfront work to build a system that then operates at roughly 80 to 90% automation, is now achievable by individuals working alone. That was not true 5 years ago. It is unambiguously true today. One more thing on income, and this one is critical. Whatever income expansion strategy you pursue, tax efficiency matters enormously. The difference between operating as an individual and operating through a proper business structure can represent tens of thousands of dollars per year in unnecessary tax expense. Business expenses, depreciation, income splitting strategies, retirement account contributions as a business owner. These levers are available, they are legal, and most people in small business underuse them dramatically. Get a qualified accountant who understands small business tax strategy. The cost of their advice is always smaller than the savings they produce. I want to pause here and be honest with you about something, because I can give you frameworks all day. I can give you investment strategies and income tactics and automation systems. And if you're the right kind of person at the right moment in your life, you will take those tools and run with them, and your life will genuinely change. But most people, and I mean this with real respect, not condescension, most people already know enough. They have watched enough videos, read enough articles, listened to enough podcasts. The information is not the barrier. The barrier is what I call the identity lag. Your brain has a deeply embedded picture of who you are financially. That picture was formed by your childhood observations, your first experiences with money, the beliefs of the people who raised you, and the outcomes you've experienced so far in your adult life. And here's the thing about that picture. It runs your behavior automatically. Not consciously, not deliberately, automatically. When you try to implement a financial change that conflicts with that picture, something in you resists. You procrastinate. You find reasons why your situation is different. You start strong and then quietly stop. Not because you're weak, not because you're stupid, but because your behavior is trying to stay consistent with the identity you already hold about yourself. The only durable financial change begins with an identity-level decision, a moment where you decide, consciously and deliberately, that you're the kind of person who manages money well, who builds wealth, who operates with financial discipline and long-term vision. Not that you will try to be, not that you want to be, that you are. Behavior follows identity, not the other way around. James Clear wrote about this in the context of habits, but it applies with full force to financial transformation. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. Set up the automatic savings transfer. That's a vote. Decline the unnecessary purchase and redirect the money. That's a vote. Spend 45 minutes this week learning about index fund mechanics. That's a vote. None of these individual votes transforms your finances. The accumulation of them, over time, transforms your identity. And the identity transforms everything else. I've told you the strategies. The strategies work. They work exactly as described. But they only work if you keep showing up for them. And you only keep showing up when the actions feel consistent with who you believe you are. Decide who you are. Then let the strategies confirm it. Now, I promised you the most important thing at the end. And I keep my promises. Because what I'm about to tell you, the thing I've been building to this entire video, is the one insight that separates the people who genuinely change their financial lives from the ones who stay in the information consumption loop forever. The most powerful financial asset you possess is not your savings account, not your investment portfolio, not your business, not your skill set. Hey, don't forget to check out the link in the description for the best way to make money online today. It's your decision horizon. Let me explain exactly what I mean, because this is the thing that almost no one articulates clearly. And once you understand it, it changes how you see every financial decision you will ever make. Your decision horizon is the length of time you are genuinely willing to be patient before you expect results. And the data on this is as clear as anything in finance. Most people are operating on a decision horizon of days to months. They make a financial change and expect visible results in weeks. When the results don't appear, they abandon the strategy, try something else, and repeat the cycle indefinitely. The people who actually build wealth operate on a decision horizon of years to decades. This is not patience as a personality trait. This is patience as a strategic advantage. And in a world of instant information, social comparison, and algorithm-driven urgency, it is genuinely rare, which means it is genuinely valuable. The reason 97% of people never build real wealth is not a strategy problem. It's a time horizon problem. They optimize for the month and sacrifice the decade. They trade the compound curve for the comfortable feeling of constant activity. The wealth is in the waiting, but only if the waiting is informed, structured, and intentional. Consider this. The average investor, according to decades of behavioral finance data, earns significantly less than the market they invest in, not because the market failed, but because they kept intervening, buying when prices were exciting, selling when prices were scary, switching strategies when something else looked more appealing. Every intervention, on average, reduced their returns. The investors who simply stayed, who committed to a strategy and stopped touching it, systematically outperformed the active ones. Warren Buffett has been public about this for 40 years. His edge, he has said repeatedly, is not analytical genius. It is his willingness to hold good investments through conditions that make ordinary investors uncomfortable. His decision horizon extends beyond most people's career spans. That is not a coincidence. That is the strategy. Now translate this principle beyond investing. The person who learns a high-income skill and gives up after 3 months because they're not earning yet, they abandoned a strategy that works on a 12-month horizon. The person who starts building a content business and quits after 6 months because the growth feels too slow, they walked away from an asset that compounds on a 2 to 3 year horizon. The person who sets up an automated savings system but cancels it when the first unexpected expense hits, they interrupted a process that produces real results on a 5 to 10 year horizon. The strategy is almost never the problem. The time horizon almost always is. So here is the single most actionable thing you can take from this video, more actionable than any specific investment recommendation or income tactic I've shared. Define your decision horizon before you make any financial commitment. Ask yourself, how long am I genuinely willing to execute this plan before I evaluate whether it's working? Write down. Commit to it. Then, and this is the critical part, do not evaluate the strategy's success before that horizon is reached. Reviewing your index fund portfolio every day is not diligence. It is noise. It produces anxiety with zero informational value. Checking the progress of your new income stream every week for the first month is not accountability. It is sabotage. It disconnects you from the long-game psychology that makes the strategy work. The people winning financially in 2026 are not necessarily the smartest. They're not the most disciplined in the traditional sense. They're the ones who chose a sound strategy, set a realistic horizon, structured their system to run automatically, and then, crucially, had the clarity to leave it alone. That is the entire game. Right there. Let me collapse everything I've covered into a clear 90-day action sequence. Not a vague inspiration list. An actual sequence with a specific logic to the order. Days 1 through 7, the honest audit. Write down every number. Income, expenses, debt balances, interest rates, savings balance, super or retirement balance. If you don't have a complete picture of your current financial reality, everything else is guesswork. This takes one evening and a spreadsheet. Do it before you do anything else. Days 8 through 14. Architecture first. Open a high-yield savings account if you don't have one. Set up an automatic transfer to it every pay cycle. If your employer offers matched super or retirement contributions and you're not maximizing the match, fix this immediately. These 2 moves alone put you ahead of the majority of the population. They take less than 2 hours to set up, and they run without your intervention from that point forward. Days 15 through 30. Target your highest cost debt. Run the avalanche calculation on your debt. List everything by interest rate, highest to lowest. Direct every discretionary dollar above your minimums at the top item on the list. Do not open new debt during this period. Do not upgrade, finance, or buy anything on credit that is not essential. This is your single most important ROI activity until the high-interest balances are cleared. Days 31 through 60. Skill or stream activation. Choose one income expansion direction. Just one. It might be learning an automation skill. It might be starting a digital content channel. It might be productizing a skill you already have and offering it as a service. The specific choice matters less than the commitment to one direction. Dispersed effort produces dispersed results. Focused effort on one thing for 60 days will tell you more than unfocused effort for a year. Days 61 through 90. build the long-game infrastructure. If you're not already investing in low-cost index funds with money beyond your emergency fund, start. Even small amounts. The habit and the system matter more than the amount at this stage. Review your tax situation with a qualified professional. Make sure your business structure, if you have one, is optimized for your actual financial situation. Lock in your decision horizons in writing. Commit to a 12-month, no-quit window for each strategy you've activated. At the end of 90 days, you will not be rich, but you will have changed the architecture of your financial life. And architecture determines trajectory. Give it time, the right amount of time, and the trajectory does the rest. Remember that number I gave you at the very start of this video? 78% of working adults living paycheck to paycheck. Here's the thing about that statistic that I want you to carry with you. That number is not fixed. It's not destiny. It is the aggregate result of decisions. Millions of individual decisions made without a clear framework, without a realistic time horizon, without a design system, and without the identity to back any of it up. You now have a framework. You have the context. You have the investment stack. You have the income expansion categories. You have the identity principle. And most importantly, you have the one insight that ties all of it together, the decision horizon. The game is not complicated. It is not easy. Those are two very different things. The strategy is simple. The execution requires patience, consistency, and a willingness to resist the noise of the short term in favor of the signal of the long term. The 22% who are genuinely getting ahead financially are not smarter than you. They are not luckier than you. They decided earlier. And the second best time to decide is now. If this gave you something real, share it with one person in your life who needs to hear it. Not because the algorithm asks you to, because the information in this video, if it lands with the right person at the right moment, could genuinely change the direction of their financial life. That's worth one forward. I drop one video a week with the same standard. No padding, no filler, just the actual framework. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the next one covers something most investors get completely backwards, and getting it wrong costs people more than they realize over a lifetime. I'll see you in the next one.